will be amazing. That's nice. I've lost my appeal. Well, you can get rid of me today. You can vote me out at the AGM if you want. All right, let's sit down if we can, everyone. If you want to stand up, you're quite welcome to stand up. If you want to dance, you can dance. Just not you, John. As we start today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Today we do church on land that was stolen and never ceded. If you haven't got your coffee, I just saw Katrina running through with two coffees there, so grab it if you can. HeartWell is a fully affirming community and fully committed to being a safe space for all people who are connected to this community, regardless of gender, sexuality, family background, economic situation, and regardless of how old you are, where you come from, what abilities you have, what languages you speak, what religion, spiritual path, tradition, and ethical conviction. Everyone is welcome here, and we want everybody to feel safe here. How's everybody feeling after the election? Yeah, for those who are following it. As an election somewhere. We're going to be in for a bit of a wild ride for the next 4 years. And we'll see how that goes and speak into that space as things emerge. But a lot to reflect on. We're going to do something slightly different today. Being in experimental communities, or experimentation is one of our principles at HeartWell, so we're going to be experimenting a little bit today with how we tell our story and understand our story as a community. And Andy is going to be guiding us through that, and he'll be coming up to help us in a moment. Stories, we don't tell stories well these days, or maybe some people feel we do, but back yonder, our ancestors would gather around the fire and they would tell stories about the community and keep those stories alive. And last week as well, we looked at All Saints' Day, and which was lovely for those that were here. There was a church camp going on as well, I think. As a joke, all right. Attempted one. But yeah, we remembered people. We remembered people in our lives that were saints, that had influenced us positively to be the people who we are and do the things that we do today, and we named them, and it was a meaningful time. And in some ways, it's really wonderful that we had All Saints' Day flowing into today, because it gives us another opportunity to remember those people and those stories together. And we don't do well, for many of us in the West, in honoring our ancestors. And I think that's a shame. So we want to try honor the past today, but also that's a way of we honoring our future in the process too. So by telling our stories, we remind ourselves of who we are as people. We're not just a building, but the narratives that make up who we are. And that influences what we do as well, by remembering the past. So hopefully it'll be a really life-giving process for all of us today. So I just want to bring ourselves into this space if we can. So again, if you feel comfortable, this will be part of lighting the Christ candle, which I'll do in a second. But if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you don't have to. But just to quiet our active minds and restless bodies. Maybe just notice the rapid mind going to a million different places. Maybe notice the restless body. Notice your breath, your chest as it goes in and out. And as you're sitting there, when you think of this community and the other communities and churches that have formed HeartWell and the story that you're part of, what feelings begin to bubble up for you? What names of individuals in the different churches that have formed HeartWell? What are the names that come to mind? What are the feelings? What are the names? What are the conversations? What are some of the difficult events and moments? What are some of the good events and moments? Just let those things bubble to the surface. Amen. All right, Andy, do you want to come join me up here? I'm always a little nervous when I light the Christ candle. I don't know if anybody else goes through that. Like, I tried the second or third time with the match, and I'm like, I really hope this works. And then I light the candle, it doesn't quite take. So it's very anxiety-producing for me. Hello, Andy. So what are we going to do today, Andy? And I don't know, we've got a few things to share together, but maybe over to you first.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it's in two parts today. The first part, we've got about 30 minutes, and we're aware that the AGM's we've followed with the AGM, so we don't want to blow it out. So we're conscious of the time. But the first 30 minutes, we're going to look at the two churches, HeartWell's history and the Avenue's history, and we'll see if we can get a conversation going amongst ourselves about that. And then we'll have communion. Then after that, we'll look at the beginnings of HeartWell here, the H-E-A-R-T. We'll spend 15 minutes on that. And so we want to be able to enter the AGM with those stories resonating in our hearts and in our heads as we go to an AGM that's full of stories.
Yeah.
And it's easy to just go there with our head. So we want to come there with something here where we can feel our feet on the ground, because this is the place that we've chosen to be. And we'll hear a bit of...
You can come with hot steak or chocolate chips in your stomach.
Wow. Wow.
Even better.
Just on that, as Andy was sharing that, you noticed there was some emotion. Bring emotion to the conversation, and as we remember, it's bound to bring those things up, and it's not something we have to run away from. But just to echo what Andy's saying, we're very mindful there's an AGM coming, so we're going to do our best to keep each other on track with that.
Yep.
And I'll be, for the online guys, just so you know, I'll be sitting there with my computer, so when they're feeding back, I'll be doing that. So if you see me constantly going with the mic, I'm just feeding back from those on the online space.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Over to you.
Thank you. And those papers there with the pens, you haven't got a task. You're not going to be asked to do anything and produce anything. They're just for you simply to take notes. If you want to jot something down or something triggers a memory or something, that's what it's there for. And it's not recorded, so this is a really simply a storytelling. So this is good. So we'll start with Surrey Hills being the oldest church. So my question is, tell me a bit about Surrey Hills. What do you know about Surrey Hills? I have a little bit of an idea, but tell me about Surrey Hills.
We do know lots.
What's your earliest memory of this place?
We came from Wattle Park, and that's where we arrived. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. Wattle Park, as lots of people know, burnt down, and we moved here. And so that was when we came to know the people. I came to know the people very well, yes.
When did that happen?
Yeah, when did that happen?
80... 19. Oh, yeah.
Rob says 1983.
It certainly was in the 80s.
They'd come over before I started here, and I started in 83.
Yeah. And it might seem like a dumb question, but how impactful was the fire?
How impactful was the fire?
It was complete, just about complete,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. Children got in, and two in particular who lived nearby, and they'd been getting in before and doing naughty little things. And then on this occasion, they came in and they lit a fire in the hall. And the fire spread quickly, and they had to get out, and they were lucky to get out. And the fire, the church was on one level, and the hall was slightly lower, and there was no inside communication there. But I can prepare, but I can't do it offhand.
You're doing a really good job.
It was in the time of the minister had to go to court with these boys. He had quite a hard time attending. It was nerve-wracking. One of the children was a bit mentally slow, which made it worse.
Did Tim Adam have something to do with this?
What aspect? Tim would have been a big fella then.
Yeah, so
Cole was trying to make a joke for those online.
so the first person, I was the first person to see the fire, and the police were there, and I said, I'm a member of this church, and the policeman said, do do you want to, and I was 21, and just show us your hands. And I said, what? And and consequently it was about the fire, and so.
So they blamed you, Chief?
Well, but
Who was your first clients?
the people who lit the fire from Moors, yeah. So
The question was, who was the first client, by the way?
yeah, sorry. Oh, right. Yeah. So it was, devastating, and yeah. So we went to say 2 years at Ian Allsop was the minister there, and then we went to Surrey Hills.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine that's an extraordinary amount of work, that transition from a burnt building to Surrey Hills.
Thanks for putting your hand up, then I can know which one.
Okay. I did my nursing training in 62 to 65.
Mm-hmm.
It was during that time when I think Viney Longthorpe was minister here. He actually asked me to come and sing at an evening service once, so I did that. I don't know when this place was built, but it was different then, up on the platform and all that sort of thing, but that was me.
And that was Surrey Hills, in Surrey Hills?
Surrey Hills.
Yep, yep, thank you.
Just quickly from Mike online, Mike Roberts, plenty of history. I got to know Surrey after Wattle Park amalgamated with it, 1980s, perhaps 84, he was saying. And the fire was hugely impactful. We lost our place of worship and community. Maybe it was earlier, now that I think of it. So Wattle Park held services at Orana for a while before joining with Surrey.
Yeah, so it's very disruptive. Imagine having a fire here, just the chaos it would cause.
Well, I've had one at home and wouldn't recommend it.
No. Yeah, yep.
I'll just offer some early memories of the church through the second half of the 1990s. So Janine and I started coming here in about 1994. Janine was pregnant with our first child, Melanie, and then so there was a period between then and 2000 when many of our families had young children in the church. That was quite a different vibe. We had a children's talk as part of the service, and which was great. And the children would go out for a period during the sermon. Penny Bradley and Janine and a bunch of others would take the kids in a separate, period of time.
Yeah.
But one of the overarching things I remember is that we were supporting these two young overseas children, Pascal and Dusabe, and we had this bucket that people would put their coins in. And I just remember the clanging of the $2 coins or the $1 coins as we would collect some offerings every week for these two young kids overseas who are now millionaires, I understand. Just kidding. But it was quite a, that we went away overseas in 2000, but just that sort of 5-year period was quite a sort of special time for all of us with our families here and that different sort of demographic. That
Yeah,
was,
so.
Very memorable, yes. I've got no more to say.
Katrina
So
said the children's talks are very memorable.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Katrina. If David Goodwin's online, we're talking about you. No, very memorable. Very. I think they pretty much quickly went to M-rated for violence at the children's talk, but that's another story. So Judith and I came in '94 as well, about the same time as Peter and Janine. What I recall, I suppose, when I think back, is some real influential, what I call giants of the community that we had. Ray Minahan, Doug Pallett, Ed Salisbury, there was a bunch. Have I missed anyone out? Doug Adam, but Doug died just before we started.
Well, he was influential for us.
Yeah. So they were incredible people in that they never felt the need to tell you what you should think, rather were very generous in being able to accommodate difference and very, I'll say nurturing, but not in a cosseting way that we often think about nurturing, but the whole context of just being able to sit with stuff, being able to listen and being able to countenance, people thinking differently, and that was quite okay.
Yeah, well, it sounds quite impactful. There are other stories that resonate with that.
So just to follow on from Andrew, so Sue and I are newbies, we're only here in 2019, but one of the constant things that I've heard is the memories and the influence of these older people. And it's not just from one or two people, it's been just, so I think it's a beautiful way for a church to grow with such wise and inclusive people.
So John, I can ask you this. What's the feeling that's attached with what you've
Oh, the
just said?
feeling around that is love for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. These people were really special, and their influence continues on, which I think's amazing.
Yeah.
And can I just say too that those men were amazing, but so were the women.
Yeah.
They were unbelievable. And I think of Gwen, Pam Minahan, Marge Bruff, Lola. They were amazing. Gwen May, amazing women. And they took us younger women under their arms, under their wings, and really nurtured us too.
Yeah. So we'll just pause there, and with those the comments of our forefathers, give me feelings. What are the feelings that you experience when you hear Julie talk and John talk and Andrew talk? What resonates for you? What are the feelings? Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Encouragement.
Encouragement.
Yeah.
Blessed.
Blessed. Yeah. Thank you.
And just a quick, I wanted to note something that Mike said, because I think it's interesting maybe for, when the two churches have come together and we reflect back on that. But he spoke about the amalgamation of Wattle Park with this community. It was a very happy amalgamation, and with the two congregations, an immediate fellowship, which I thought was an interesting insight, and Mike as well, in terms of feeling a genuine love for people. Yeah.
So there's something that's happening and stirring already in our history about how we see each other, or how we are seen by each other.
I'd also like to say, I think the role models that our children had. So when we look at all these older women and men, and we had a buddy system, but we had a lot of children here. I mean, we've all had 3 or 4 kids, and 2, 3, 4 kids, and they all grew up together in a wonderful environment.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of them don't come to church now, I believe that a lot of the formative what's the word, Julie? They're formative. They're all good people, and while they come from good families, I think this environment had a massive part to play in that as well. There was unconditional love here for them. And Ed Salisbury had his 90th birthday, and I think his grandchildren were a bit put out because all our kids felt that he was more their grandfather than his grandchildren did, you know. Yeah. There was a real love here for them, and I think it was very formative for our kids, and I think they were very lucky to have it.
Yeah, so they took a spirituality with them. Yep. So I'm going to go from Surrey, from the Avenue to Hartwell in Highfield, and if anything that comes back from here, just shout out, and so it'll be an amalgamation. So tell me a little bit more about Hartwell.
Funny, it got handed to me. My mum, who many of you met, was 4 months old when her family moved to Hartwell, and she died at 96, having moved over here. And so when I grew up, nearly everyone in the church seemed to be related to me, or one of the people you called aunt or uncle anyway. And I think that gives me a particular view of the community because it was like family for me. But we had some amazing people. Anthony Risson was the minister when Chris and that started coming, and he was, a relatively modern one, but he was an amazing influence on lots of us. Yeah. And Maureen Savage's father, he was another amazing. He was the minister when I was a child, so yeah, Murray Savage. So yeah, I think it was, to me, it was very open and accepting. But Meryl has pointed out that I perhaps had a bit of a different view to perhaps other people had. It's a pity Meryl's not here to speak to. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the. Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the questions that I had. Given that Meryl's not here, what do you imagine, and it's open to anybody, what do you imagine Meryl would have said about Hartwell?
So I'll try to capture this. Sarah's also away as well, which is unfortunate for today, hearing from both of them. But one thing that I've heard from Meryl and from many of the others from that space is and sorry, you might have mentioned as I jumped out to say, Michael, come and share whenever if you want to, is the enormous creativity. There was so much creativity in the space when it comes to art, when it comes to crafts, music. It's like this life force of creativity, and you see it coming into so much of the space now. So I know I'm jumping ahead with what we do. So I've heard Meryl say that numerous times, and almost everybody I've spoken to from that space mentions that.
We used to do whole church art activities, like feltings and stuff, and everyone, during the service, and everyone would get up and be part of doing it. And out in the foyer there is a painting by Libby Byrne, who was a student minister and an artist, and she used to paint during the services. And there's that one there too, which actually was painted during services. So we watched it grow over several weeks. It was... it was very art and craft. We did all sorts of things, different things. Mike, did you?
So even back then, there's this creative edge in the actual service, which would have been pretty unusual to have in the service. Yeah.
To sort of steal a little bit of Meryl's story and tell in a poor way that she can probably correct me later. When she joined as a student minister at Hartwell, I believe, she was immediately put onto youth group, to which we responded, I have no idea how to work with children. But she came in as the youth minister, and thanks to a wonderful woman named Barb Richards, apparently youth group was an absolute riot, well before my time. I am, relative to many people who are part of Hartwell, a much later arrival. But I think one of the things that really struck me about Hartwell was there were so many damn ministers there. Like, honestly, like it seemed like the degrees were flowing out of the pews, and it was. I think it really did inform a lot of the character of how HeartWell like worshipped, and how HeartWell sort of talked about theology and faith, when many of the sort of services and messages delivered felt a little bit more like like college lectures, as opposed to like A, B, C, D, whatever. Lots of the sort of self-help variety stuff. A lot of more asking questions and ruminating on specific topics and stuff like that. And that was the thing that really struck me about coming to HeartWell.
Yeah. Michael, why you got the phone?
Oh.
So what was that like for you to be in that space?
Incredibly life-giving. I came from the sort of self-help sort of style church into HeartWell, and I sort of begrudgingly went to my old church. But when I came to HeartWell, I felt invigorated. I felt like being willing to ask those questions, being able to sort of think about these topics and stuff, sort of really brought my faith to life and such like that. Sort of like really what I needed, particularly at that time and such. Yeah. So it was beautiful and lovely. Yeah. And it's beautiful to see it continued here to a certain extent. To a certain extent, to a great extent. What am I saying?
Thank you.
Don't fail me now, buddy. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say, when Meryl started, John's brother Graham was the minister at HeartWell. So, yeah, it's funny the connections that come round and round. Oh, now Barb has...
Oh. And then Andrew next.
Just confirming, Meryl started as a youth minister when she was the Old Testament lecturer at college. Now, in my mind, if somebody says Old Testament lecturer and somebody says youth minister,
yeah,
nothing in my imagination would look like Meryl.
Yeah.
But she pulled the youth group team together. We had a team of leaders that took turns, and it was really good fun. Yeah. And she did an amazing job of keeping us doing the job properly.
Yeah, nice.
We have a few of those kids. Michael's been visiting HeartWell since he was staying with grandparents and would come to Sunday school, so we knew him from a small age. Had some fun with children's stories involving Michael. And Grandpa, yes, I can relate a small story that I was doing the children's story. I was doing something with toothpaste, squeezing it out of the tube continually, because I'd asked, who didn't clean their teeth this morning? And Michael put his hand up. And then there was a voice from the crowd that said, oh, Jim, you were supposed to do that. So that was Gwen, who we love.
Yeah.
But we had those sorts of things going. We had Graham there with his family growing up, and everything sort of just went on, and the next minister came and things went a little bit differently. And one stage, as they spoke of Libby as we had a lot of student ministers. When I started, back in, if I say it quickly, it was the middle 70s, Peter Bradley and Kathy were there as students. Ken Clinton was doing an interim ministry there, and there was another lad there, Graham Woodward. And it was interesting watching that all go. We started a service that was called Informal, and at 9 o'clock we'd get together in the fellowship room there and talk about the Bible readings, which used to upset the minister of the time because he'd done all his study for his sermon and we'd come up with something else. So that was always interesting for him. Yep. But then that grew into the 11 o'clock service, and the 9 o'clock service turned into 10 o'clock, and we did things differently there. But yes, it's been quite a journey. John and I came from Gardner Church because we lived around the corner from HeartWell. And it's always been the most welcoming, hospitality governed place.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yep.
Can we go back to service at 11? Maria will be there.
That was a suggestion of pushing back the time to 11. Maria.
Hello, I'm still really new in this community, but I just wanted to share a reflection on what I'm hearing. My sister Liv and I grew up as Catholics, and I just want to say what you have in all of these churches who now come together as HeartWell is really precious because you have community. I have no memory of anything like that. We went to Mass on Sunday at our local parish. We didn't know anyone. We just went to Mass. There was no community. Yes, there was no community. So I just want to reflect that this is really incredibly precious, the community that you've developed together over so many years.
Thank you. Yep. How are we
And
going?
the feeling, Andy, is just a little bit of envy.
Thank you. 5 minutes. Oh, cool.
I hope I'm not jumping ahead, so just put me in my place if I am, Andy. I am? Yeah, thanks. I said Andy, not you, John. Just Mike's comment, he's come up with some gold today, because I think this leans into the next space quite well. There was never any them and us in the Surrey-Wattle Park amalgamation, and it feels the same this time in the HeartWell-Surrey amalgamation, like we have always been one. Yeah, so just wanted to name that.
Thanks, Mike. Yep. Well, that's probably a good place to pause. And yeah, feel free to say something, but this will be a good place to pause as we start getting ready for communion. So if you want to say something or a comment or how you're feeling about being here now, this is a good time for it.
I was just going to pass comment on, in Graham Rogerson's time at HeartWell, they developed a group called the Eastern Regional Churches of Christ. It was East Kew, Baldwin, Camberwell, Surrey Hills, HeartWell, Ashburton and Gardner for the first year. That's when I got to know more of the Surrey people, except for the fact my boys had been coming to the Explorer Club here. And that was a special time getting to know people from the other churches.
Yeah.
It didn't end up being one group, but for a few years we did a lot of things together, usually on the 5th Sunday of the month. Okay. And so my connection to Surrey started back then. I'm not sure exactly what year that would have been.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Now it's one church, HeartWell, and all the others have gone.
Oh, really?
Baldwin's somebody else. It's not but it's not the Baldwin people.
And let's not forget the man in the window up there, Will Newham, who's the leader of the boys' clubs. And he was quite famous for that. I don't know when that was exactly, but
Yeah. So that's not just a symbol, but it's connected to someone here. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So as we wrap this section up, just throw a word out that describes how you are at the moment.
Accepting.
Thank you. Accepting. Grateful. Thank you. Connected. Thank you. Comfortable. Thank you. Beautiful. Thanks very much.
Just listening to the stories just before you can get ready for communion if you haven't already. Just listening to those stories, my experience is feeling very unsurprised that I ended up in this space, in this church, because I don't think there's many churches that I could have ended up in Australia. And there's something about the accepting nature and the generosity and the authenticity that's a really beautiful thing that I'm picking up in the story. So as we do communion, I looked at the Latin roots of communion because I thought that would be a fun thing to do. And particularly in the French and the English, it has the idea of the common, the commons, but also bringing together. And so as we kind of transition from this space of looking back at the two churches, we're really moving into reflecting who we are now. But just as you have communion, let's be grateful for our commonness, and let's be grateful for the things we share in common as a community. Let's be grateful. I want to say stronger together, but that's Joe Biden's slogan from 2020. But it is true. So just be mindful of that as you share communion. Maybe look somebody in the eye and enjoy the commonness and the coming together of who we are.
Okay. So that brings us to HeartWell, HeartWell. And the question is, where were you when you first heard about the beginnings of the two churches coming together? Do you remember that time? Do you remember how you felt? Oh, beauty. Thank you.
Having been at Hartwell from 1993 to about 2007, I'd moved up to Panton Hill, and so I hadn't been, because it's a fair way, I hadn't been here, been on and off a couple of times, and it was just before COVID, and I thought, oh, visit my friends at Surrey Hills, and that was the first service of the two people together, and I didn't know of the background of the coming together, and I thought, oh, okay, I need to support these people and just come back. So that was the first time, and I've been very blessed by those amalgamation and the new friends that I've made. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Yep, nice. Others?
Highfield Road had been battling with CCVT about they wanted us to close and we wanted to stay open, and we just had a meeting and presented them with a a document which has since formed the basis of the mission plan. And we were ready to fight, and then Graham died. And it was like... And then we had a email from David Brooker, and Sarah and I, we thought all was lost, and Sarah and I came over to meet with David and Danny, and all of a sudden we could see light again, and there was so much similarities between the two congregations, and so it was, it's in that moment when we thought all was lost, all of a sudden the light came up again, so
Yep. Thank you. Others?
During that time where it was slightly dark, and we'd already made a slight connection, our beginnings with Surrey, Highfield Road got an eviction notice that said, move out. And we went, no. And the people of Surrey grabbed us by the hand and walked us through what we needed to do to become what we are now. And I was so grateful.
So the genesis behind coming together was around HeartWell closing. Okay, yep.
Being closed.
Being closed, yep.
Being closed rather than us choosing to close.
Yeah. So there's a strong impetus about survival and... Yep, okay, yep. I didn't know that. Others?
And even though he's not here today, but I don't know if he's online, Dave Goodwin online or not, through that period of time, Dave, who's a lawyer by trade, at that stage he was lecturing. The hundreds of hours of work he did, both climbing around the top of the church here to locate old trust documents, and finding old trust documents down in the archives, the Victorian Government archives, and then spending hours and hours of research in terms of understanding the way the legal structure had all been put together, which then provided us with a different basis for engagement. I'm not sure, I don't know if we've ever properly thanked him for that, but at some stage we probably should. His work was tireless.
I think I found out about it just hearing the conversations here at church when Sue and I came, and I thought at the time, well, it's pretty brave, all that, because churches merging together doesn't always happen well. I think what's interesting now, just hearing the story today, is how well Surrey Hills and Wattle Park merged together, and then how well the Avenue merged with the HeartWell. To be able to watch it and see it happen without it, just as Mike said, it just feels like we all won, and it is quite staggering how well that's done. So it's fantastic.
As being a new person, it looks like a glove to a hand. But I would imagine there's a wealth of story around beginnings and eyeing each other off, and those first conversations, and how do we make it work, and
I think the main thing was we focused on what we did the same, and we let go of things that would cause a hiccup. And I think that's the reason it's come through as so-called calmly as it has. Because like others, I've seen other churches come together and one community think they've been flushed down the toilet and the other community don't even realise it. But I think we just focused on what we did the same, and we did it all with God guiding our hearts.
Yep. Anyone else like to add to that?
as I look at the personalities and the skills between the two churches, I see quite a sort of synergy of, you know, skills that people from Highfield Road bring here that are different, you know, that complement what we have here, and sort of vice versa. So in a way, the two churches united become a whole, you know, because, you know, when I look at, you know, Meryl and Sarah and Barb and Rosemary and everyone who's come across, what they contribute is different to what we have here originally, sort of thing. So the combination is quite more powerful, you know, because of the diversity of skills and personalities that we have when we come together.
Yeah, yep, yep.
I should stay down this end.
I just wanted to also mention the graciousness of David Brooker in the merge, and the way he intentionally always used both churches' names when he said things, so that there was never any just Surrey. It was always HeartWell and Surrey. It was very intentional and very special, I think.
Yes, it seems intentionality is a very strong, from what I'm hearing, very strong part of both churches, knowing what they're grounded in.
It's been an interesting one being on the placemaking committee, and you know, I had lots of ideas, but I was also very conscious of, we had two buildings that had two histories, that had two lots of personalities in them, and I was always very aware that I didn't want to have, how could we merge two well? And so with much sort of trepidation, I said, well, I really like that painting and that would look really nice and that would look really nice. And everyone just agreed that we could merge and merge our stuff together. And it was just easy. So I don't know, you know, Sarah's thing behind, it's made out of the old hymn books that they had, that had recovered at one stage. And I think, you know, we've been on a bit of a hiatus with it while we work out what's happening with buildings, but I really look forward to the space where we can actually even develop the space even further together to make it really our own. Like we've tried to bring in lots of stuff from both communities to join, but I'd like to, you know, I'm looking forward to how we develop the next stage. Yeah, even over there, we've got bits from Highfield Road, we've got bits from Surrey, we've got probably bits from Wattle Park. Well, no, they probably all burnt down. Timber bits. But yeah, that, to me, that's just, we've been able to do it easily. And when I sort of say, I really like that wooden bookcase and that would look really nice, Barb's first response is, yep, we'll get it here. You know, that would be great to have a part of it here. So they've been very gracious in allowing this building to take form too.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Oh.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Andy, that I think one of the other things that really helped the two communities come together was the strategic planning process as well. So the SALT group that you know, spent the better part of a year. There are 8 of us, you know, from both communities, and and I think the plan that developed through that group and also the broader community and the engagement has really helped us as we think about what the future looks like and plan for that. So
Thank you. I think so. Yep. So I'll leave you with the last question. Tell me about the origins of ending with the "May the road rise to meet you." What's that about? I reckon it's the best benediction. But tell me how that come about. And that's our last thing. What's the story behind that? Really?
I've got a feeling. So one of our prime ministers here was Peter Bradley, and Pete is quite musical. And so he would often play guitar and sing, and that would be a critical part of his worship leadership. Rarely would the words that he sang match the words that were on the screen, but that's a different That's a different part of his leadership style. But I suspect he may have found that for us to, yeah. But yeah.
Yep. Oh, thank you. Yep.
It's interesting. My kids' primary school, I think, performed a version of that song.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, at the grade 6 graduation.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. Yeah.
I know when Martin Riley was here. When Martin Riley and Margaret were here, we were singing that thing, and he said to us one day, "But what does that mean in the palm of his hand? What does it mean?" And that's the bit I usually cracked up at, you know. So.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Well, Martin Riley, with a name like that, you'd love the Irish blessing.
Yeah. So that brings us to a close. You happy to leave there? There's nothing else that's urgent for anyone? Absolutely we do. but that won't be me. So can someone lead us in?
We don't just tell stories once. We, as part of a community, we need to continually tell our stories. So even in Andy and I, as we were prepping for this, we feel like we're just skimming the surface, and I suspect we all felt like that today. You've got a million stories, emotions, feelings. So we're already thinking into next year how we can continue to give voice to those stories, continue to revisit them, so that they are life-giving and that they animate us in terms of what we do. So look out for that space. Can we just thank Andy? He's so good at facilitating these spaces. You kind of create an environment we can bring ourselves to these spaces, Andy, the deeper parts of who we are, not just our heads. And that's a real skill. So thank you for that. We're going to have the AGM in about 7 minutes' time. Just grab a cup of coffee, something like that. Pardon? Oh, in a minute. Okay, I'll talk about something else. My hair. Sorry about my hair. I don't know if anybody's been looking at it. You have. Thank you. It's yeah, mate. It's terrible. So the story is, before Coldplay last week, my wife thought it would be a good idea for me to get a haircut, so she thought she'd do it herself. And so I was like, should I wear a hat this morning? I thought, no, I'm just going to be really open and vulnerable. And so, yeah, you've seen the back. It's even worse on the back. Oh, jeez. So we're going to...
I'm glad you explained it, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you. And I really was going to wear a cap, but I thought, no, I'm going to live into it. Pardon? I do, and so I've got Pearl Jam this weekend, so I'll get my hair cut properly before then. Ooh, next weekend, sorry. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stick in that. Yeah. Anyway, what was I interrupting for? Sorry, Danny, go for it.
I was just going to say, so in terms of the AGM...
Do you want to come speak up here, Dan?
Oh, okay.
Yep, just so the online guys can hear.
Just so everyone understands, there's two things, please, just to remember. The first thing is we have to have a quorum, if everyone who's here now stays, we have a quorum, right? So I guess what I'm saying to you is I'm going to stand guard on the door, and if you think you're leaving, good luck, all right? So please, if you can stay. The meeting shouldn't be overly long today, but please, I would request that everyone stays. We just need to take a brief break between the two meetings in that this, what we're doing now is we're streaming live to the world, and we don't necessarily think as interesting as we think the AGM is going to be. We're not sure that the world wants to watch it. So we have to turn off this live stream, and Mike has requested that we open up a closed live stream so he can participate. So it'll just take us a couple of minutes to get that right. So if people can have your cup of coffee and your biscuits and your cakes and all of that sort of stuff while we just get ready, but then please stay, because if you all go home, we've got a problem. Okay?
Can you reuse your coffee cups, please?
Yeah, and you've got to reuse your coffee cups. Okay, guys, thank you.